Welcome back to Gambling Flow, where we, like always, explore the fascinating world of gambling. I'm Russell Kane, and I'll be your host for this deep dive.
And I'm Fiona Blake. I'm here to add a bit more context to what we're talking about.
And today we're going to be looking at something of a paradox, really.
Oh,
What happens when you take the high-stakes, unpredictable life of a professional gambler and try to combine it with the world of, well, being a dad and having a family?
I mean, it's not something we see a lot of, is it?
Right.
The gambling world is all about individual strategies,
Yeah.
the wins, the losses, but you don't often think about the families back home.
Exactly. And it just so happens that we found this fascinating story about a guy, a professional gambler, and for years he kept this double life a secret from his daughters.
Wow.
On the surface, he was a journalist, reporting on all the, well, the celebrity scandals and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But behind that, behind the facade, he was part of a high-stakes card-counting team.
Oh, wow. Talk about living a double life. Imagine the pressure of that, the risks involved with both of those professions, and to have to keep it a secret. Goodness me, I don't know how he did it.
It really does make you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How do you keep those two worlds separate? And how does that impact your family life?
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, you've got this world of casinos, high rollers, this thrill of the game.
Right.
But then at the same time, you're trying to have some kind of normal family life and create those everyday moments with your kids.
It's like walking a tightrope, isn't it?
Yeah.
This guy in the story we're looking at, he had this big challenge,
Yeah.
trying to keep his professional life secret, but also wanting to raise his daughters in what he considered to be a normal way. Imagine having to constantly explain why you're jetting off to Vegas or Atlantic City while also making out like you've got a 9 to 5.
And it's not even just the travel.
No.
Think about the lifestyle, the perks, the possibility of suddenly coming into a load of money. I don't know how you'd hide that from your kids completely.
Well, you can't really, can you? Kids are curious. They're always watching, listening, picking up on stuff, even if they don't really understand it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure his daughters must have had questions, especially when they ended up in some pretty unusual situations.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that's where the story gets really interesting. So he talks about how his daughters would actually mimic the casino elevator announcements.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they'd be, perfectly copying the voice, announcing the different floors and stuff.
Oh, bleh.
They were absorbing all this without really realizing what it meant.
Yeah, they take it all in, don't they? It's like they're trying to make sense of the world around them in their own way.
Exactly. And it wasn't just the voices. There's this hilarious story he tells about when they went on a trip to Paradise Island.
Oh, wow.
All expenses paid, thanks to his casino connections.
Of course, yeah.
And as they're getting off the plane, his daughter just casually asks, "Are we having a suite again?" She's stepping into a limo.
Oh, wow. That really shows how their dad's double life was shaping their view of the world, doesn't it? They just expected that level of luxury, that lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's not exactly normal, is it?
Well, exactly. And it makes you wonder if they were growing up with a bit of a skewed idea of what normal actually is.
That's such a good point. It's easy to get caught up in all the excitement, the wins.
Yeah.
But what about the kids? What happens to them in the long run? How do they feel when they find out the truth?
It's a question that hangs over the whole story, doesn't it? We get these glimpses of how they were affected, the confusion, the sense of, I don't know, wonder, but maybe also betrayal.
It's a real head-scratcher. On one hand, these kids got to experience things most of us could only dream of.
Right.
But on the other hand, there's the secret lurking in the background, this hidden truth that could totally change the way they see everything.
Yeah, and that's the real heart of it. So as we go deeper into this story,
Yeah.
we're going to be exploring what it's like to raise children in a world where you're always jumping between illusion and reality. The excitement of the casino and then just normal everyday life.
It's a balancing act, for sure.
And we'll look at the ethics of this whole double life thing.
Yeah.
The choices this guy made, the risks he took, and how those decisions affected his family.
Right.
It makes you think about your own ideas, about parenting, about what it means to be successful, about how you can live a double life but still protect the people you love.
It's going to be a fascinating journey.
It is. So let's dive in and see where it takes us. We'll uncover the twists and turns in this gambler's life, see the world he created for his daughters,
Yeah.
and look at the consequences of the choices he made.
It's a story that really makes you think about your own life.
Yeah. And as we unpack this story, we've got to ask ourselves, What does it really mean to win at life? Is it about hitting the jackpot, or is there something more to it, something that goes beyond the casino
Definitely.
and gets to the heart of what it means to be a parent, a partner, just a human being trying to figure it all out?
It really challenges your perspective, doesn't it? Makes you think, maybe even question your own definitions of success and family.
So stick with us because things are about to get really interesting. We're going to come back and explore the world of casino comps and what happens when those perks dry up.
Ooh, can't wait to hear about that.
Buckle up, folks, because this is just the beginning.
Now, before the break, we were talking about this gambler's life,
Right.
how he was constantly flitting between this life of extravagance and, trying to keep things normal.
Yeah, like two completely different worlds.
He was juggling, wasn't he? Using his winnings to give his daughters these amazing experiences, but at the same time, trying to make it all seem, well, ordinary.
And one of the ways he did that was through these casino comps.
Yeah, comps.
For those who don't know,
Yeah.
they're basically like freebies that casinos give to their big spenders.
They're high rollers.
Yeah, it could be anything: free meals, hotel stays, show tickets, even travel expenses.
Casinos want to keep those players coming back, keep them spending. And in this case, he was using these perks to, well, to give his daughters a pretty privileged life.
Lavish suites, amazing shows, and
What else?
he even let them have all the chicken fingers they could eat in those fancy hospitality suites.
Sounds good.
It's a funny situation, isn't it? He's basically using his gambling winnings to bankroll a lifestyle most families could only dream of.
I mean, it is, but it does make you think, what happens when the comps run out?
When the winning streak ends.
Yeah, when those perks are gone.
Well, our gambler friend found out the hard way.
Oh.
He was playing at a casino in Connecticut, living it up in the hospitality suite with his daughters,
Right.
and then all of a sudden, his luck just vanished.
Oh, no.
And I don't just mean losing at the tables. He was actually, backed off.
Backed off. What does that even mean?
It's basically the casino saying, we don't want you here anymore.
Oh, right.
They think you're counting cards or something, using some kind of trick, so they politely tell you to leave. It's not about losing money. It's about them seeing you as a threat to their profits.
Makes sense.
And for our gambler, it meant losing all those perks he'd been relying on.
So no more chicken fingers.
You guessed it.
Yeah.
And his daughters, well, they weren't too happy when they found out their chicken finger feast was off.
Oh, poor things.
He had to think fast. Ended up taking them to Mystic Pizza instead.
Oh, Mystic Pizza. Classic.
Classic.
But it does make you wonder, did his daughters ever ask why they couldn't have all the fancy stuff anymore?
I mean, it really highlights how fragile this double life was, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He was constantly trying to keep up appearances, knowing it could all fall apart at any moment.
And it must have been tough on his daughters psychologically.
Yeah,
Did they ever connect the dots, even subconsciously,
possibly.
between their dad's mysterious trips and the fact that sometimes they were living the high life and sometimes they weren't?
I mean, kids are really sharp, even if they don't understand everything that's going on.
It makes you think about secrets in general, doesn't it? Even when you think you're doing the right thing, keeping things hidden can have a big impact on the people you love, even if you don't mean for it to.
Totally. And as this story goes on, we see how those hidden truths eventually come out.
Oh.
So years later, his eldest daughter gets back in touch with a friend from childhood.
Oh.
And through a series of coincidences, the truth about her dad's gambling comes out.
Wow.
Imagine that, finding out your dad wasn't just a journalist, but a high-stakes card counter who'd been living a double life all along.
What a shock.
Really makes you wonder how his daughters felt about it,
Yeah.
Did it change how they saw their dad, their whole childhood?
Yeah,
It's a question that goes way beyond casinos and gambling, doesn't it?
it does.
It's about family, about trust, about understanding.
Exactly.
And it makes us think about the choices parents make, what impact they have on their kids, and what kind of legacy they leave behind. So let's dig into those questions as we continue our look at this gambler's double life. We'll see how his daughter reacted to this bombshell and explore these bigger themes of honesty, family, and, that balance between risk and reward.
Sounds good.
But first, let's hear what the gambler himself has to say. He actually made this surprising claim that casinos might be a better influence on kids than wild celebrity parties.
Now, that's an interesting take. I'm intrigued. Let's unpack that. Now, before the break, you mentioned that this gambler actually claimed casinos were a better influence on kids than wild celebrity parties.
Yeah, it does seem a bit strange at first, doesn't it?
Definitely goes against what you'd usually think.
Exactly. So how did he justify that?
Well, it all comes down to his views on values and influences.
Okay, so what's the thinking there?
So he was basically comparing celebrity parties, which are all about appearances and superficiality, to the environment he created for his daughters within the casino setting.
So it wasn't about the casinos themselves, but how he approached being there with his kids.
Exactly. He talked a lot about how games like poker and blackjack require strategic thinking, discipline, understanding the odds.
Okay, I'm starting to see where he's coming from.
He saw those things as important life lessons, teaching his daughters about calculated risks, managing what they expect to happen, dealing with both winning and losing.
Right, because that's life, isn't it? You make decisions, you weigh up the odds, and you deal with the consequences.
Exactly. And let's not forget the family-focused atmosphere he created around these trips.
True, he made it about spending time with his daughters, creating memories.
Swimming pools, fireworks, those chicken fingers he talked about.
Yeah, he was trying to find a kind of normality within this unusual setting.
And it makes you question what a healthy environment for kids really is, doesn't it? It wasn't your typical family vacation, but it was still a family vacation.
It makes you think about influence in a different way.
Right. Is it about the place itself or the values and intentions you bring to it?
That's the key question, isn't it? We're not saying gambling is good for kids or that casinos are perfect places for families,
No, of course not.
but maybe even in places that don't seem right, you can still find meaningful experiences and lessons.
It depends on the parent, doesn't it? They shape those experiences, they filter the influences, they guide their kids.
It reminds us that there's no one right way to be a parent.
Exactly. And sometimes, the less traditional paths can lead to unexpected growth.
Absolutely. This story really encourages us to look beyond our initial judgments, to think about people's intentions, their values, and how those things shape a family's journey.
It's been a fascinating deep dive, hasn't it?
It has. Looking at this gambler's double life, the choices he made, and how they affected his family.
We've gone from high-stakes gambling to casino comps to secrets and the psychology of it all.
We've really had to think about parenting, about ethics, and those unexpected ways we learn life lessons.
It's a story that sticks with you, makes you think.
And as we wrap up this episode of Gambling Flow, we'd like to leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
Would you want to know about a parent's secret gambling life? Even if it meant you got to go on those amazing vacations, experience that extravagance.
It's a tough question.
It really is. It makes you think about family, about trust, about what's important to you.
We hope this story makes you think, consider different points of view, maybe even have a conversation about it with the people you're close to.
Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of gambling and family.
I'm Fiona Blake.
And I'm Russell Kane, and this has been Gambling Flow.
Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share this episode.
With anyone who loves a good deep dive into, well, the human experience.
Until next time, keep those cards flowing and those conversations going.